Glory be to God, Mighty God Ministries, episode 165, and we're going to call this Fireworks Safety. I wasn't planning on doing this video, but for some reason, it popped into my head. Thank you, Holy Spirit. And obviously, with the 4th of July coming up, which is pretty soon, which essentially is in a week, Friday, there's going to be a lot of people lighting off fireworks, which is great. I'm for fireworks, but we also have to remember that like anything else that has essentially, gunpowder or different chemical formulations in it, those can be dangerous. Why? Because, you know, they, they ignite. Anything that ignites can be dangerous. So obviously we have to use safety for them. We have to use safety for them. And one of the most important things that you can do with fireworks, and I know this from experience because I used to sell fireworks and I used to light off a lot of them. And it's been a while since I've those days have passed, but I still, it's been a while, but I used to really enjoy it, and I mean like way too much. But I'm going to show you this right here. If you don't know, I'm going to show you the Phantom fireworks because they're probably the most popular around our area. There's obviously some other ones, but there's all different types of fireworks. And essentially, these are basically called mortar tubes. Okay, depending on, everyone has a different names, but they're mortar tubes, and essentially you have shells you put in them. And then if we go back, we're going to go to the cakes. Okay, so there's 200 gram repeaters or cakes, however you want to call them, or 500 grams. 500 grams are the maximum capacity that they can load. When they say 500 grams, that's talking about, whether you want to break the I'm going to say powder, okay, gunpowder, but you can black powder, whatever you want to call it, but that's a formulation. It's very similar to what's used in guns with the bullet, same, very similar. It's potassium nitrate, sulfur, and charcoal. And those are normally the three things that are the propellant that shoots it up into the air. And then essentially there's other chemicals that mix to give you the colors and all that. But essentially you have, different types of cakes. 500 grams are the largest cakes legally that they can put into it. So that's the most. Obviously, if it's a 500 gram cake, the shot count, right? That's how many it's going to shoot up. A 1, boom, 2, boom, 3, boom. The shots, if it's actually less shots, it's going to be better. And the reason why is because think about that. If you have a 36 shot and you have 500 grams in that 36 shots, that's not going to be as good as an 18 shot with 500 grams in it. So a lot of times, some of these things can be deceiving where it's like this 20 shot might look like it's better, but depending on how that chemicals are mixed, if you have 500 grams and that's the maximum you can put in, it's a 500 gram repeater, then obviously the ones that have less shots, they actually are going to be, they're probably going to be better. That's not always the case, and I've been out of the game for a while, but I remember Crack the Sky. They used to have a Bada Bing Bada Boom. They used to have a Blue Willow. That probably wasn't a 200. That's probably a 200 grammer. Let's see if there's anyone else that I know off the top of my head here. Let's see. Rain of Fire, that's a sweet one. Rain of Fire was always a good one. For the money, too, it was a decent one. Although they probably shot up in price. Let's see. Mount Olympus. Crown Jellyfish. I'm going down memory lane here to see. Pyrotechnic Motherload, that's a sweet one. That's a good one right there. Pyrotechnic Motherload, 16 shot. That was always a sweet one. I would always use that in a finale shot. Some of these I don't know them in. New York Salute Finale, that's a decent one. But remember, that's a 36 shot, so it's going to have a lot of shots, but it's not going to be as big as like the Pyrotechnic Motherload because it's less shots, right? Wicked Willow, Untamed Retribution, that was decent. Oh man, some of these I don't even know. God of Fire, stay away from that one because that one's a looks like a little demon on it. I wouldn't use that one. Let's see if there's any other ones. Bada Bing Bada Boom, that was always a sweet one. That was a good one. That Bada Bing Bada Boom, real loud. All right, so essentially, I think most people know you either have cakes or you have mortar tubes. There's all different other types of fireworks also that are essentially different types. Like there's fountains. Fountains are ones you put on the ground and they shoot out the top, but they stay at a certain distance, okay? When you have cakes, okay, or they call them tubes, and I did one right here just to show you, okay, this is a 36 shot. So if you look at it right there, it's like a tube, but essentially there's circular containers in that top, and you don't see them because it's covered with a paper lining. But when you light that off, one, two, three, through 36 shots. Okay, so that's one way you can do it right. I made this real quick. I had some old pipe, but this is basically essentially what a mortar tube is like. Okay, there's a cylinder like this. It's not made out of cardboard. It's made out of a special material, and you cannot use PVC pipe. So if you have like plastic PVC pipe, do not use that. Okay, there's a special plastic that they actually use. It's called HDC pipe, or it's made of a special formulation so it doesn't blow up. If you use regular PVC pipe, that will explode on you and you'll get plastic shrapnel at you. So do not do that, okay? But even these ones that they come with like this, they're cheap. They have a plastic base on them. So they're actually sort of dangerous, but obviously it's for their certain price. And if you look at it, it's a tube, right? And then you have a shell. And I'm going to use this shell right here. This is a party popper, but essentially, right, you put your shell in here. You light this is the fuse. You light the fuse, obviously. What happens is it goes to the bottom, right? You light the fuse, it ignites, the propellant ignites and goes up in the air at a certain height and then explodes, and then the other chemicals in there. That's how you see the colors. Now, the important thing about this is safety, okay? So there is a couple things you can do very easily to make yourself safe, okay? And most people do not do these, but I'm going to tell you right here, if you want to save yourself, save hassles for the fire department, save people that are around you that you care about, you should do a couple basic things. And these are very simple. One, you need to have some type of hose, whether you have a water bucket, have a hose somewhere nearby. That if you need to spray a cake or a tube down that lights a certain weird way, or it's defective, you have to remember that all of these come from where? They come from China and factories, and normally they are good. China, I don't care what people say, China has good overall, they make good stuff, but there's quality control issues with everything. So you might get a bad one, right? They might have, 2 million fireworks that come across, and 1,000 of those are duds, or they have issues with them, okay? So what you want to do is you want to have a water source, or normally a hose, that not a crappy hose that you can't spray. You want one with a spray, okay? At minimum or a water bucket, okay? At least so you can put some stuff out. The next thing you want to do is right here, okay? I'm going to show you 3 images right here. One, plywood. Okay, this is $12 right here. You're going to probably spend a couple $100 on fireworks. Spend $12 and get a piece of plywood. Why do you need a piece of plywood? Because where are you putting these on? Well, hopefully you're putting them on some kind of concrete or cement. But if you're not, you need to get plywood, okay? If you're going on grass is questionable. These can tip. Okay, I'm going to show you 2 things to help you. So if you're not putting it on a concrete surface that is flat, you don't want to have something tip over. Okay, that's going to be bad news. Get plywood. It's $12. Buy a sheet of plywood so you can put all your stuff down. If you're on concrete, fine, you're good to go. Okay. The next thing you want to do is buy some blocks. Okay. Again, this is Home Depot and Lowe's. I don't care where you go to get them. These concrete blocks are $2. There's 185 in stock at Boardman, Home Depot, I think, and the other one might have been Lowe's. There's 1,700 of it. I don't know if that's actually right or not, but they say there's 1,700 available at Lowe's, and there might be. They're $2. So spend an extra. You got 20 bucks. You're already gonna spend a couple hundred fireworks. Spend 20 bucks so you have safety. Okay. And here's how you're gonna use these. Okay. Again, what do we know? Well, we know if I use these are party poppers, right? But if I use these, we essentially know what's supposed to happen. Same concept, whether it's a gun or any explosive, right? It's supposed to be pointed at a safe distance, right? Which means this is supposed to shoot up in the air, right? And then explode. What can happen? You can see right now that this tube's moving. Obviously, it's made out of cardboard in a thing I cut real quick that I had in the basement. But what can happen is this can tip over, okay? You light that off, this tips over, guess what happens? Now that shell, even if it's a small shell, that is gonna shoot at someone, and there's a good chance someone can get hurt. So how do you do that? Okay, again, I took 2, these are old iPhone cases, but what do? You take your blocks, and essentially this is what you do. You have your shells, right? Your mortar shell on a surface. You take 1 concrete block here, 1 concrete block here, okay? And that's going to keep this from tipping, and you smash them together so it doesn't tip either way. And that's all you have to do for these. You do that, you'll be safe. Okay, that right there is a good safe thing. It doesn't cost a lot of money. Again, what does a concrete block cost? $2. So you have $4 that could save your life. Okay, same thing. Your cakes. The cakes are square, so again, they're made to stay flat. But again, it's just like in life, there are no guarantees. So same thing. Buy 2 concrete blocks. I don't even know. Maybe they sell them at the showroom floors now. If they don't, maybe that's a good idea. They should start doing that. You know what? Phantom Fireworks, WF Boom, all the other places, they should start. If they don't do that now, which I don't know if they do or not, they should start selling plywood and concrete blocks at their stores, where you just pick it up and you say, oh, you got to get this block with it. Again, what do? Concrete block on this side, concrete block on this side, right? And what's that do? It prevents that cake from flipping over, and now the 36 shots are going up in the air like they should instead of going towards you. And again, does that normally happen? No, but it can happen. And you could start a fire, people can get hurt. And what's it cost? We just said what it costs. It costs like under 20 bucks. So again, think about that. Okay. Now, the other thing that you can do to help out, okay, is you have what's called a fallout radius. Okay. Fireworks, if you look at whether it's in the news, nuclear bombs or whatever, right? Whatever you have, there's a fallout radius. So when that goes up in the air, it shoots up, you're going to have fallout debris. So you want to make sure that you have enough space around you for that fallout so it's not going to light stuff on fire. Okay. The other thing you want to do is you should have a barrier in between your fireworks and the crowd. Okay. So if you're lighting them off, preferably you can be far away, whether it's a parking lot that's nothing's around or whatever. But normally you want to have some type of barrier. How do you do that? Well, you take your plywood, right, and you make a barrier. Okay. So again, if this is, and this takes a little prep time, but again, you have a week to go. You can easily do this, and it's not that hard, and at very minimal money. So you take this right here, right? This is your repeater where you're going to be shooting them off. Get a piece of plywood. If the people watching are on this side, or depending where they're at, you buy that plywood and put a little drill some screws into it. So your plywood's like this, essentially, right? Like this. Okay, your plywood's like this, and now you have a barrier. You have a barrier, so if something does happen, again, if you use the blocks, you should not have this, but if something does happen, guess what? You have a barrier between you and the firework. This is also a good idea if you're lighting them off, so you're not standing right next to it, so if something happens, you get hit, you have a barrier. You light it real quick, you go behind your barrier, and then you're safe. It's the same concept as when, go look online when they did any type of testing for when they do explosive stuff. Go look at, atom bomb testings. They didn't go stand by the atom bomb and say, oh, let's light this off. No, they have a building that they ignite it remotely from. In the big fireworks shows, that's how it works. Okay, they have electronic devices with the fuses all connected up to it, and it's, they're hitting a button, and then it electronically lights each one so no one gets hurt. Obviously, they can't do that cheaply. Just because of the cost, that the fireworks, it's very hard to do that. So that's why you have to use a lighter. So the other thing is, what's another safety tip? Buy good lighters that have, the long necks on them, essentially. So again, it's easy to light. You can also use what are called pooks, or whatever they used to call them. I forget what they used to call them, but they're like, you can light it and it stays lit for a lot longer and it'll stay lit. But those are a couple different things you can do. Okay, and even like these, a perfect example is these party poppers, right? The party poppers are meant to go up in the air, but it's the same thing as this too. If it falls over, what's going to happen? There is a chance someone could get hurt. So what do? And I'm going to do this right here because this isn't going to hurt anybody, but this is going to shoot up in the air, okay? So if I take this, it shoots up in the air. Now you can see right there what happened. Well, we know what happened. It ignites. Why? Because there's a very small amount of a propellant in here. And how does it work? See that right there? And then right now you could see the smoke coming. That's the propellant coming out of this. So where is this supposed to go? Well, when you shoot even like something like this, like a party popper, which basically is very small very small amount, what happens is when you shoot that, again, you need to shoot it away from you. Same concept as this. Now, obviously, if I take the party popper, I'm not going to do this, but if I would shoot this toward myself, most likely I'm not going to get hurt, but still, it makes no sense. So you want to have that barrier. You want to have the barrier blocking it, right? So that when you shoot this, just like a regular firework would go, you have a barrier between you. Okay? So again, let's see if I can do this real quick. Let's get our barrier up, right? I got my water there. I got there, right? Now we have our barrier. So right now, normally I'd go like this. Let's say it pops. Then what happens? We saw what happens. It shoots to the barrier, and then no one on the other side gets hurt. So it's again, what is that? It's a simple thing, okay? And just like this, what happens with the tube? We block the tubes on the sides. So you get your concrete blocks, you block it, right? And obviously these aren't heavy because they're iPhone cases. But again, now my tube doesn't flip over. Whereas if you don't have any blocks, then you take the chance of you have your shell in here, right? And if it tips, where's it going? That's going directly over there. And you can see, just to give you an example right here, see this little piece in there? That's your propellant right there. That's your propellant right here, okay? That's what makes these, even the small fireworks, again, little party poppers, that's what makes them shoot out, okay? So again, firework safety is very simple overall. It's just a couple basic things. It's like any other safety tips when you're doing stuff, like if you're, using a fire, whether it's outside, you're cooking roasted marshmallows, you know what I mean? Again, same thing, basic concepts. Hose, right? Have a hose, preferably a long hose with a good nozzle that you could spray. Have a water bucket, okay? Get the concrete blocks, okay? Concrete blocks, again, $4. Get two concrete blocks. If you're gonna do a bunch of cakes, buy a bunch of them. Have a couple concrete blocks, or bricks, or some type of bricks. Something heavy that, again, not gonna tip over, okay? And then the next thing you want to do is have a barrier. Have a barrier between you and the fireworks. Again, a couple things. I know most people don't do any of these, but it's a couple things that you want to do just for basic safety. And there's not a lot of cost to it. Let's show the cost again. You got $4 there. If you go crazy, let's go crazy and get $10 worth of blocks, right? So we have a couple extra ones. And these are heavy duty blocks. You could buy smaller ones. If you have bricks, that's better. But these ones, you put these on, guess what? That's not going anywhere. That cake ain't moving, because you ain't going to move a concrete block. Not happening, okay? And I know, because that's what we would use. We use concrete blocks all the time, okay? And we'd either, with the tubes, you either put it on the sides or you put the tube inside of that, and it ain't moving, okay? And then plywood. If you're on any surface that is grass or that's not level, if it's not a level surface, buy a sheet of plywood. It doesn't take much. And then you have one flat piece that you can put your bricks on, and you can put your cakes on, light it. And like I said, if you have the time, I recommend this. If you're doing a lot of fireworks, I recommend, and maybe if you have a friend that's a carpenter or something, or again, it doesn't take a lot, but if you make just a little, drill some screws in or some nails, make a little wall, like a fortification. That's all you need is two pieces, and that's going to protect you. That's going to protect who's ever lighting it off. So if you have that, that's an extra step there, but it's a good thing to do if you're going to do it. Again, stay safe. Remember, use long lighters. Give yourself enough time to where you light, and then you can get behind something, and look up instead of just, dropping it. Because again, these are manufactured, in China, and they get shipped over here. And it's been like that, I think, I don't know how long. I mean, I know they made some stuff here, like some sparklers and that, but most of that stuff comes from over there. The only places that I know of, and there might be other places there. I mean, I'm not a professional in this by any means, but I've done a lot on my own. And there's a place out of PA and a couple other places that they make their own, but they mix the chemicals, and they have special setups for that, where you can't have any electric static and stuff like that, because it'll blow the whole place up. So again, you want to be careful and safe. 3 things. I'm going to go over it again. 3 things: blocks, block your fireworks, okay, plywood, so if you have a flat surface. And then the third one is you have to have some type of water source just in case. Again, it doesn't have to be something crazy, but have a water source. You know, if you only can have a bucket of water, that's better than nothing. Have a bucket of water at least. But if you can, have a hose. Have a 20-foot hose where at least if something happens or if a firework, starts lighting off a sideways or something like that, you can at least spray it down. Because normally if you take most stuff, if you put them in water, it dilutes it. Okay, so I don't care what it is, whether it's fireworks, it will dilute it somewhat. And it's, obviously you just leave it there and don't touch it. Okay, and if you have one that doesn't go off and you have a defective one, which can happen, don't light it, just leave it off to the side. Again, throw that in a bucket of water or just spray the thing down with water and just let it sit there for a couple days, okay? And those are the main tips. If you do that, you're probably going to be safe and nothing bad's going to happen. Again, minimal cost. So again, this channel's to glorify God. I know this is a little bit off topic for me, but I'm going to do a couple other ones to help out. If you are not saved, okay, this is more important than anything because let's say if something bad does happen, 4th of July, and you go, you don't know if you're saved. Guess what? Who knows where you're going? You might be going to burning. So what you want to do is, if you don't even understand it, read this salvation prayer out loud. Basically, you have to believe that God sent His Son Jesus Christ down to earth to live a sinless life, down on the cross, to raise 3 days later, so He may take the keys of hell away, so we may all be forgiven of the sins, any bad things we've done throughout our lives, and we can go up to heaven where we live forever instead of going to hell. So all you have to do is say, Lord Jesus, I repent of my sins and surrender my life. Wash me clean. I believe that Jesus Christ is the Son of God, that He died on the cross for my sins and rose again on the third day for my victory. I believe that in my heart and made confession with my mouth that Jesus is my Savior and Lord. And that is all it takes. Even if you don't understand it, just give it a chance. Give it a chance. God will start working in your life, and everything will work out. So again, remember, stay safe 4th of July, or whenever you're lighting them off, stay safe and do those things. Minimal cost, and it's gonna help you out. If you know anybody who's doing it, mention it to them. These are basic things. Okay. All right. God bless you. We'll see you in the next one.